Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly Boyer with Transformative Healing, and you can find me at kellyboyer.org. So I'm on here again today because I love it. I've been getting a lot of really good questions either through email or in response to newsletters that I've sent out. And today I'm going to answer a couple of those questions because they actually go hand in hand in some of the questions that I've been receiving. So today I want to talk about how patterns are formed. And then I want to talk about why is it that when we have a trigger or something that we feel is happening to us, and a lot of times we say, well, when you bring it into your awareness, you can heal it. But even when we bring it into our conscious awareness, it still doesn't heal at that level. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, which is some of the stuff that I love because I love the psychology and the human mind and the energy and really, just the physics behind it. So we're going to be talking about all of these things today and see if we can give you a little bit of better understanding when you are running into discomfort and you can't seem to let it go or, get rid of it. So we'll go ahead and get started. And the first thing that I want to talk about is, so when we have an experience, good or bad, it doesn't matter. We are experiencing it first on a conscious level. So that's pretty much how we know, like, hey, this is good, this is bad. On that conscious level, it really helps us discern what type of experience that we're having. Well, what happens is that when we then experience it on a conscious level, what we need to realize is that everything is energy. Everything that happens to us, everything that we say, thoughts, it doesn't matter. It's all energy. So when we have, for example, a really good experience, we are then bringing in that energy or those frequencies of that energy into our body that then goes into our subconscious. So that's one of the things that we always do, right? We really love something, and then our subconscious will then trigger that frequency that is connected to that pattern or that program. And then we go and do it again. So for example, I love soccer. When I was young, still remember the first time that I ever played. I had the time of my life. And so every time that I would have an opportunity to play soccer or even want to play soccer, what would happen is my subconscious would trigger those frequencies that then connected to that first event. And I would get excited about it and I would go out there and play my heart out. Well, the same thing is true when we have a negative experience. And the one thing about negative experiences is that a lot of times we don't want to remember them. So because we don't want to remember them, they get deeply rooted and seeded into our subconscious. And then again, that's another reason why it's really hard to resolve those really deep rooted issues at the conscious level. So it's the same concept, right? So I go out, have a really negative experience. I'm discerning on the conscious level that, man, this really stinks. Don't want to do this again. But on a subconscious level, it's then been implanted and seeded into that part of my subconscious because now I have taken in those frequencies and that energy. And now the subconscious says, oh, here's another program to create. So that's kind of a quick rundown of what happens. So of how it happens when they get planted and seeded into our subconscious mind. So then what happens is that now, and I'm going to stick with the negative because that's a lot of reasons, like, people want to come for healing. They have these patterns that they just can't break. They just keep repeating them and they don't understand why they keep repeating them because the pattern happens. And then tomorrow they're like, I'm not doing that again. And then a week later, they start experiencing, I'm not going to say the exact same thing, but they start experiencing the frequencies that are connected to the original experience that happened. So that's how we create memory chains. People call them memory chains, memory packets, pockets. But what they are really are like these bubbles of experiences that we've had, good or bad. So if the first initial experience, the bad experience happens, when we're little, then, it could be it could be days, weeks, months, years, it doesn't matter within our life. We have another experience that happens. It may not be anything about the first experience, but what happens is that this new experience has the same frequencies that happened in the original experience. And so again, now the subconscious is saying, oh, this is the frequency that's coming in. This is the program that I need to play. So imagine that happening all the way through your life into your adult life. Now you have this long memory chain that is connected to the frequency or the problem. I'm going to say, just call it what it is, the problem that has those low vibrational frequencies, and it's constantly triggering and triggering and triggering. So a lot of times when you need to really do healing, and a lot of healers talk about like, we really need to do some deep rooted healing. What's happening is that we are then going back to the original experience, whether you know it or not. You don't have to remember what it is, but we're going into that experience and we're working with that frequency that then created this pattern. Hope you're sticking with me. Hope you're following me. I'm trying to put this in very easy terms. This is not anything that's new to the psychology world. In fact, memory chains and how they get created has been a theory and a concept for decades. But the cool thing is that we are now really, really learning how to go in and dig out that root cause using, again, it's physics, right? Because we're going in and we're digging out that energy, or we're recreating or reprogramming that energy to something that was toxic, and now working with the subconscious to reprogram it into something that is healthy for us. So a healthy resource. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my very exciting PowerPoint. Please, no judgment. But I think giving you a bit of a visual will help you really understand why it's so important that when we go in to heal, we have to go into that subconscious. And one more thing before I pull up my PowerPoint. When we are working at the subconscious level, it can be very, very, very hard, difficult, create a lot of dis-ease and discomfort when you're going in to work at the subconscious level. The other thing that people don't realize is when we are working at that level and we are moving that energy from toxic to healing, emotions can become way heightened than what they would normally be if we were healing it on a conscious level. And you're going to feel those emotions. You're going to almost like rapidly cycle through those emotions. But one of the emotion that usually comes up the most is frustration, agitation, and confusion, because we don't have to know or understand what the subconscious is doing to go in and really process and reprogram and create what has happened into something that's more positive for you. And 9 times out of 10, when you go in and you're done, half the time you don't even realize what the original issue was that you came in. So we really want to work on reaching in there. It's almost like I feel like the energy is like a hook. You hook it, you get it out, and it's gone. And once you've healed it at that level, I'm going to tell you 99% of the time, it's not going to come back. So if somebody does return and say they show up and they're saying, I'm experiencing a lot of anxiety. Well, you go in and you go through the process and that difficult process, and you get to the end, and it has nothing to do with the reason that they came in. So maybe it has nothing to do with anxiety. That's a symptom of whatever the root cause was, right? So then they come back again and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm experiencing anxiety again. Well, what happens is that anxiety is connected to another deep-rooted issue. And so that's the program that keeps playing. But a lot of times, once we go in and we really heal that anxiety, it's less likely that the next time that you experience a situation that causes that you're going to be in so much distress that you're going to come back to heal anxiety again. Because what happens is once we reprogram that subconscious, and the subconscious then goes, oh my gosh, this is a familiar frequency. it will reach in and grab that positive resource that it recreated to run in your subconscious and apply it to that. So I hope that's not too confusing. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of psychology to it. There's a lot of biology to it, physiology, physics to it. There's a lot of things that are going on when you're working at that level. So, okay, let me get my PowerPoint up. And again, please, no judgment. I want to get my PowerPoint up for you guys so that you can see this. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to kind of give you a visual about what it was that I was talking about. So here we are, right? We have our experience, our very first experience. And let's just say, for conversation's sake, to move through this, that maybe as a really young child, you went through some sort of abuse. Maybe there was a caretaker that was supposed to take care of you, and the caretaker was abusive. So that's the experience that you had. You may not even 100% remember the experience, but now this is the experience that you had. And the frequency, and well, when we have an experience, I want you to know it's not like we just take in one frequency. There's a lot of frequencies that are attached to that. But what happens is the body and the subconscious will hold on to one frequency that, especially in a negative event, that's most traumatic. So in a positive event, it's going to be basically the highest vibrational frequency that it will hold on to. So when we have something bad that's happened to us, it's going to hold on to whatever that lowest frequency is that came in. So in this case, we're just going to say the frequency that really came in, that was then, there we go, that was then deeply rooted in the subconscious mind, planted like a seed, was the frequency of powerlessness. So we're going to keep going here. So then here we go. We have our experience, our first experience. That's part of this pattern that's creating. The experience was, I was abused as a really young child. The frequency that the subconscious is holding onto is powerlessness. So then let's say maybe it's years down the road, we have another experience. And maybe this experience is when you finally start going to school, and maybe you were being silly and it wasn't the right time, and the teacher reprimands you. Maybe it was a small reprimand, maybe it was a big reprimand, doesn't matter. So in this experience, what happens is all these frequencies come in again, but the frequency that the subconscious locks onto is that frequency of powerlessness. So then we've created the first part of our chain. And now, because the subconscious is saying, whoa, this frequency feels really familiar, what happens then, the subconscious relates it to whatever that first experience is, because that first experience is holding on to that frequency of powerlessness. And then that first experience then replays back, and usually with more intensity, into that second experience. So you can already see that we're already got this cycle going, right? All right, so let's keep going. So next is, we have experience 1, abused as a child. Experience 2, I was reprimanded by the teacher when I was in school. And now experience 3 is, maybe I'm starting to date. I'm dating, I'm loving it. I meet this person, they're amazing, but this person does something that completely embarrasses you. And and now it's triggering now that frequency of powerlessness. The subconscious is held onto it. It says, okay, here's another familiarity. Oh my gosh, now I need to relate it back, right? So then what happens? The next experience then connects to the second experience with the third experience, then connects to the first experience, and then it goes right back into the same order. And then what happens? We've now got a program that's starting to play, and it's on repeat. So the subconscious knows, because this has happened again, we didn't heal the planted seed, the root cause of it, and it says, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do when this happens. So again, here we go, right? Experience 1, abuse. Experience 2, teacher reprimanded me. Experience 3, my partner, who I care about, embarrassed the heck out of me. Frequency that's connected to it is this frequency of powerlessness. Experience number 4. So now I'm in the workforce. Now I'm really into adulthood. I'm in the workforce. I miss a deadline, not on purpose. And my boss decides to let me have it. And now, again, like I said, in any experience we can have a whole bunch of other frequencies that come in, but the subconscious says, ooh, I'm sensing that frequency of powerlessness. I'm experiencing that. Oh, I remember that from these other memory chains that have happened. And so I'm going to relate it to that. So each time that we have an experience, if we do not go in and heal it at the root cause or at the subconscious level, a lot of times what happens, we talk about experiences, right? If we don't learn it the first time, each experience gets a little bit harder and harder and harder, which is very true. And this is the reason why this is happening, because we haven't gone in and actually healed it. So every time we have an experience that's connected to that frequency, the subconscious really heightens it again. It's just going to exasperate it, make it so much harder. So then here we go. Here's our cycle. And we can have a lot of these chains. I'm showing you 4 experiences, but if you think about it, if something happens in our childhood and now we're an adult, can you imagine all the experiences that happened in between that the subconscious is connecting to that frequency? So now it's cycling around, right? And it's intense. So what happens? We are in so much discomfort that we need to figure out what needs to heal. So maybe our powerlessness feels like, oh my gosh, I have no control over my life. So that's the thought or the limiting belief that is created by this program. The symptom of it is anxiety. And we may not even know where, like, we may think, oh, I just have anxiety. But what we need to find out is, well, where is that symptom connected? Like, what is that symptom connected to? What is the frequency that symptom is connected to that we need to work through to have the subconscious reprogram it into something that goes from unhealthy, uncomfortable to now I have a positive resource. So if I ever experience that frequency of powerlessness again, I will not play the original program, but now I'm going to play the positive resourced program to help me. Maybe it's even to maintain your anxiety. So here's what happens, right? So when we talk about memory packets or pockets or these memory chains, they're in our mind, but they're also in our energy field. They're hanging out all over in our energy field. And a lot of times we don't realize it until something is really uncomfortable that these programs of these memory chains are playing. So we spend most of our time, we may think that we're doing stuff every day on a conscious level, but it's really our subconscious that's running the program. So here it is. We have our energy field. We now have the subconscious that's in the middle of it. When we heal the seed of when it was planted, we then heal the root cause of the problem, which is usually whatever that negative frequency was to that experience. So then what happens? All of these bubbles, packets, pockets, whatever you want to call them, all of these bubbles, right, that we have, whoops, let me go back, maybe. Okay, so all of these bubbles that we have that were experiences, they don't go away because they're part of our experience and part of our learning. But now what they're not connected to is that negative frequency that when we connect to one of those bubbles that creates that chain, it's not going to cause us any dis-ease in our life. So I really hope this helps you. I was racking my brain on how to make this it was very simple, very easy to understand. But like I said, there's a lot of things that are involved and that are going on behind the scenes. So when you're working with someone to help heal at that deep subconscious level, know that there's a lot of stuff that that healer is doing behind the scenes to really hold that container for you that's safe, that's compassionate. But at the same time, our subconscious, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can look at you. All right. So a lot of times our subconscious, because these programs have been playing over and over and over again for years and years and years, it then protects it. And it protects it because it wants to stay in that comfort zone. But when we really push it and really challenge the subconscious, eventually the subconscious says, well, wait a minute. This is something that doesn't feel good to me. Let me start processing. Let me start digging in deep to find that resource that can heal whatever that issue is and change it into a program that is now more positive, that creates comfort, that it doesn't cause a trigger anytime something happens, because now it knows how to play this new program. But in the meantime, as you're working through that, because of all those different experiences that you have, those different experiences create a new knot that needs to be untied or undone until you can get to that root cause issue to heal it. And a lot of times, once you get to that root cause issue, there's an instant release and relief when the subconscious has found another program, a positive program, or is using that positive resource to recreate into a new program. And a lot of times you don't even know what it is or what happened. But the way that you do know is that if you go into another experience where maybe one of the frequencies of that experience is powerlessness, instead of holding onto it and then putting it into that chain that you've already created, the subconscious will say, absolutely not. I have a positive resource for that. It'll go into the positive resource. It'll begin to play that program. And you actually either handle the situation completely different. Maybe the situation doesn't bother you at all. However it comes out, it is always a more positive way, a healthy way, a better way of feeling. So I hope this was helpful, and I hope you like my little PowerPoint. But either way, if you guys have any more questions about this, I love to talk about this. If you know anything about me, I am a psychology geek. I love it. I love the human mind. I love the human brain. I love everything about it. I love consciousness and unconsciousness. So if you guys have any questions or need me to elaborate more on something, please put them down below in the comments and I'll be happy to answer them. Or if you have my email, which is kellyboyer.org@gmail.com, you can absolutely send me over an email and say, hey, I'm just curious about more information about this or that, or whatever it is that you have a question about. But until then, everybody, I hope this was helpful. And, healing's hard. I mean, there's no other way to say it. You know that you're doing a lot of progress when you're in the thick of that turmoil or that discomfort. It is hard. But here's the thing. Once it's healed, there is so much beauty on the other side of that. And let me tell you, I would rather work hard and maybe be miserable for a bit as I'm working through that, to know that I've completely healed whatever it is that I'm needing to heal at that time. All right, everyone, as always, I want you to know that I appreciate all of you. I love all of you. And until next time, bye, everyone.